We can't afford to lose any smart brokers tonight. So I'm Stuart Schwartz. Hello again. Mask off, not on Zoom. Executive Director of Coalition for Smarter Growth. 25 years. It's so exciting to be here. We have the former Governor of Maryland, Mr. Smart Growth himself here, Paris Glendinning. Thank you. We're supposed to be joined by Councilmember Gleros from Prince George's. There she is. Our latest smart broker, TOD person, Councilmember Takis Karatonis from Arlington, the other home of smart growth. And we have some former elected officials, George Leventhal from Montgomery, Chris Zimmerman from Arlington, Walter Tejada from Arlington, and then maybe some others. Welcome all of you. So we're going to celebrate tonight, but I will pause for a moment. I mean, it is a strange time, I think, for all of us, for everybody right now. We have come through a very difficult 2 years. Many people have lost people. We had people who didn't come tonight because the illness is still passing through their families right now. We're also within view of the Capitol building. I'm an old Navy veteran. I'm a lawyer. I believe in our democracy, and it's under threat. So there's much that we have work to do on together in terms of equal rights, women's rights, and democracy. And then in the middle of all this, if we hadn't had enough, we have a barbaric invasion. So I now have no regrets about having fought in the Cold War tracking Russian submarines. And I left the Navy because we had won the Cold War, or so I thought, and I wanted to do something on the environment. And I discovered this amazing group of people that we have who are our founders that are here tonight. Right at the end, we'll bring them all up and have pictures taken, but they are here. They have it on their name tags: Joy Oakes, Chris Miller, Michael Replogle, Lee Epstein, Stella Cook, Glenn Vesta was going to try to make it. Neil Fitzpatrick had COVID in his house, wasn't able to make it. Have I missed anybody? And a couple other real veterans in here like Rick Rybeck and Marilee Pierce and others. That was in the 90s. I think there were 12 of us, right? Doing smart growth in the whole region, something like that, maybe 20. Now there are thousands, and thank you, young generation, all of the YIMBYs and all the other folks working on affordable housing, transit, and so forth. Thank you. Cheers to the next generation. You know, tonight we have the greatest team at CSG here: Jane Lyons, Aisha Amsa, Cheryl Court, Sonia Brehe, and Bill Pugh. Congratulations, guys. And Governor, I don't know how it happened. So many of them from the University of Maryland. I don't know how this Wahoo was hired. Go Terps, I guess. We have our Champions Council here tonight. There are wise advisors for us. They have that on their name tags here. Steve Jones, Allie Davis, Lee Farmer, Andrew Orbach, Ron Eichner, Jim Campbell, and if I missed anybody else, Steve Jones, and Rodney, who's going to wrap up for us tonight. How can I forget? You'll be hearing from 3 of them tonight. And Rodney, congratulations on your engagement. Let's hear it for Rodney. This is a free party for you. Little event organizing. I cannot forget, as I have a couple of occasions in the 25 years, to thank my wonderful wife, Allie Good. Let's hear it for her. She's put up with me having a second spouse called the Coalition for Smarter Growth, and many long hours, many planning commission meetings, and board of supervisors and council meetings. We don't hike anymore. We go to those meetings instead. One of the benefits of Zoom is being able to do those meetings without leaving home. We would not have met had it not been for the Coalition for Smarter Growth and our founders who formed it, because Allie was working for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. It was November 11th, 1997 when I met her, and showed up with a stack of books of all the transportation plans that she needed to read to know her job. Please ask her tonight if she's ever read them. Not a great way to start a relationship, but we started dating a year later. And she still puts up with me. So, we've thrown up some slides here from, many of our great sponsors. You can see the sponsors and our wonderful host committee on the board. Many of our host committee have been active in this field as in the private sector, in the public sector, as advocates and others. So thank all of them. Many of you, your family, all of you. On the sponsor side, JBG Smith, perhaps a top TOD developer in the nation. Chris Lineberger said we have more places of walkable urbanism, transit-oriented urbanism, than anywhere in the nation, and he was sad he couldn't come tonight, and he's credited CSG with it, but we also have to credit the guys who build it, the men and women who build it. So JBG Smith is a sponsor. We have Ackridge. We have David M. Schwartz Architects, who are showing you can do great classical urban architecture still, and their competitors in the modern sphere are up here as well. We have Ron Eichner, who's here, who does great boutique, great placemaking in DC and Prince George's. One of the little guys in the business that helped create these great places. EYA, Life Within Walking Distance. Sorry, it's trademarked. I wish I could take it. Maybe they'll give that to us. I wish we thought of it. But they're not just the fancy townhomes that brought people back to urban places. They have been committed to affordable housing because we have seen them do it in places like Alexandria, where we have mixed income housing where the public housing had been before. So they've just done terrific. They've shown a commitment to that from the beginning. We also have Somerset Development Company as one of our sponsors as well. Jim Campbell, Nancy Hoof and her team. Great affordable housing projects, doing good in our community as well. I don't know if I've forgotten one. Let me just double check. There's a long list of them that we have. Oh, and Ackridge and 5 Squares. 5 Squares, Andy Altman, former head of DC Office of Planning, decided he's going to risk everything he's earned in his life by being a developer, and he's doing, especially at Grosvenor, he is doing his best to turn Grosvenor into a great place, a really art center, and with mixed-use development. And then finally, I think it's probably best I left Ackridge at the end for the ones I'm going to talk about, because we're right over here is Union Station, where Burnham Place will be built. If you've ever read the history of Grand Central Station and the air rights there, that's what they're going to try to do 100 and some years later. And you can see why everybody waited 100 years to try to do it. But we hope that's going to happen sooner rather than later. In looking back, it is not possible to summarize everything that our team has accomplished over the years. And we have over 100 alumni, staff, and interns of our organization that are scattered around the country. I reached out to many of them, heard back from them. They're in great, smart growth, good causes all around the country right now. Some of them are here tonight as well. And among the things we did was create a blueprint vision for the future, a network of walkable, transit-oriented, inclusive communities. It took a while for everybody to realize that this would work. I learned from the veterans who founded us in the 90s. We launched the blueprint in 2002 with Urban Land Institute. We had the reality check in 2005. One of the elected officials, I'll save his name because he's a good guy, he's doing the right thing, but he said they checked reality at the door. That elected official then turned around and did everything we ever asked him to do about transit-oriented development and transit. So we didn't check reality at the door, we became reality. And 5 years later, only 5, it took the Council of Governments to recognize we were right and create the Region Forward Plan. And everything else since then that they've done, except for transportation, has been oriented towards more housing close to transit in a walkable place. We have won the Montgomery BRT system. We've won over 100 development projects, 40 master plans. We have saved Metro with dedicated funding. We then saved it with emergency transit funding. We've got a business coalition with Metro now. Some of those members are here. We span everybody from labor and grassroots advocates and affordable housing advocates to the business community, and that's what you need to do. And you, of course, need the elected officials to deliver as well. We, though, face challenges, and we know it. It's perhaps the most challenging time we've ever lived through. And admittedly, CSG can't work in every sphere, so we're going to stick with what we know. But we know that we have challenges in affordable housing right now that are urgent. That's why we have great people like Cheryl Court in our team and the rest of the team to advocate for policies and trust funds. Hey, Cheryl. Make sure you all tell Cheryl she's not allowed to retire until I do, so we have a mutual retirement pact. And it's not for another decade, I think, right? The affordable housing crisis is real, and we can fix it. I wish we'd spend as much money on affordable housing as we spend on highways, and why don't we shift all that money over? Because if you can live here where you work, And walk and bike and use transit at affordable housing in a smart location will do far more to solve our transportation problems than anything else we do. Not to mention all the other social benefits from it. So affordable housing, we know we need to move transit-oriented development faster. We need, of course, all these great architects and planners to help us do it, but we need the government to move faster on it. And we need neighbors to understand that this is not going to ruin their lives, that it really creates a great community. We were in one neighborhood fighting with some neighbors. We had coffee with them. We discussed it with them. And the person who was opposing all of the Bethesda plan said, you know, it's so great, there's a grocery store I can walk to now. I said, yeah, that's because a few thousand more people are living by here, so we can have a grocery store. So, and his house was worth $2 million because it was so convenient. So, yes, we need more mixed options in housing close to development. But we definitely need to fix our transportation program. Most of our climate emissions are from transportation now in this region, the majority of it. We have 8 years to work on climate. I'm glad it's our 25th year. I don't want us to be doing this in 25 years. I want us to solve this in 8. All right? And it's going to take all of us to do that. And transportation is what we've got to work on. And as some of the great planners taught me, there's no transportation solutions to transportation problems. There are only land use solutions to transportation problems. And there are land use and housing solutions to transportation problems, and that's what we need. So that's our biggest challenge right now with the coalition. Bill Pugh, our senior policy fellow, left one of these great sponsors to come work on climate change to us. A major sacrifice, personally, and all, but he and his wife have just been terrific supporters, their whole family, and he is committed with us to address climate. His analysis and reports are great, but we're going to run circles around the Transportation Planning Board on this. So for the transportation planning firms here, we're not going to put you out of business. We got a lot of complete streets to do. We got a lot of transit systems to build. We got a lot of bus lanes. We got a lot of street grids. We're going to keep you busy. All right, just not the big stuff, okay? All right, so those are challenges. Why us? CSG, we're survivors. We've been here 25 years. We know how to work in partnership. We have relationships. We know how to win the campaigns. We know how to work the media. We know how to work with our community and build a supportive community for this. And we're here for the long haul, but we can only be here if we have your support. And I really appreciate your support. Get ready for a busy 8 years ahead. You're all going to help us fight this, win affordable housing, win TOD, and win on climate change. Thank you. I'm now going to have 4 guests come up and speak much shorter than I did. I'm always a little bit long, but just some good friends of ours. I'm going to have first Evan Goldman from EYA come up. We're followed by Dan Reed, who's on our Champions Council. Many of you know Dan Reed is a great activist in Montgomery County and around the region. Followed by Lee Farmer, who's with VHB, also on our Champions Council, and won some big transit projects for our region. And then finally, Rodney Herrell, who you can't tell from the look of him works for ARP, and lives in Prince George's and has worked closely with Cheryl in Prince George's. So they're going to wrap up with some short remarks each. And please bear with us, and we'll get back to networking after that. Thank you, Evan. Thank you all.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Stuart. I'm going to actually read this for the sake of time, which means I need my glasses. So I'm Evan Goldman. I'm Executive Vice President of Acquisitions and Development at EYA. We're really happy to be here and excited about Coalition for Smarter Growth. First of all, thank you, Stuart. Thank you to the entire team at CSG. EYA has been a supporter of CSG for a very long time. And the reason is because CSG uniquely understands the issues that we deal with every day. The people, the battles that we're fighting, the community members we often come across. And they're both willing to engage in those battles and to win those battles. They've been actively engaged in over 100 projects in this region, giving voice of supporters into this battle. And like many of CSG's development partners, we proudly focus on creating walkable environments, walkable to transit, walkable to retail, walkable to amenities, mixed income communities. And so that is where CSG really comes in and lends their expertise and their support. And our types of projects often mean that we're working in infill communities, in places where there's existing residential and where people might not necessarily want to see change. And no matter how liberal these folks seem to be, It sounds like you may know some of them. Time and time again, we get to see the really ugly side of what we know is out there, right? The same tropes that have led to the segregation, both racially and socioeconomically, of this entire region. And no matter how well-meaning these people may be in their day jobs, they come out with pitchforks at night. And what's amazing is how many times when we've looked to our partners, to Cheryl, Sonia, Cheryl, to Jane, where they've been with us in West Falls, in Tacoma Metro, Old Town Alexandria, downtown Silver Spring, right in Brookland, DC, Michigan Park, McMillan, Fort Cotton. Time and time again, when we're trying to build good mixed income smart growth projects, CSG has been there for us and we've been there for them. So on behalf of the developers in the room and those in this community, the smart growth community, who are real advocates, we're really proud to support CSG. And we are very excited to celebrate with you at the ULI event next month in June 7th for the award that you so well deserve. So thank you so much.
Evan and I are a little shorter than you are.
Yeah, how are you?
I was taller 25 years ago.
Hi, I'm Dan Reed. I wear a lot of hats, but I want to begin by telling you a story about when I was 15, in the summer of 2003, I testified at the Montgomery County Planning Board for the first time. There was a vacant lot in my neighborhood with a dead walnut tree and an old rotten fence, and there was a plan to build 14 houses there. And I wanted to go up in front of the planning board and say there should be 14 houses. And I remember turning around after all of my neighbors had patted me on the back saying, "You go," thinking they were, they had a young fighter there to demand that there should be no homes on this vacant lot. And I remember just seeing how confused they were. There was nobody with me at the time except my mom, who had given me a ride. There was not as much of this universe of people that I think we know today fighting for this stuff, but there was the Coalition for Smarter Growth. And in a box of stuff in my basement that my parents keep giving me from my old childhood bedroom is a CD called Blueprint for a Better Region, which is a CD because I had to write somebody and probably, Stuart or somebody put it in the mail for me. And at the time, I assumed this was something that had been going on for a long time, and in many ways it was, right? This was a big established movement, and I was just a little teeny part of it, and little did I know that I was not, right? We have in this room today folks who've been at this for many, many years, and we have folks who are just getting into this more recently. We have folks who come from all different walks of life and all different industries and stuff. And what unites all of us is that for the past 25 years, there has been this national model for a movement around smart growth that has been led in large part by the Coalition for Smarter Growth. And we can see additional generations of people, finding out one way or another, like me when I was 15, maybe not getting a thing in the mail this time. And that all started with this group in many ways. So thank you. You did a good job.
And I'm coming up again for just a second because I don't know how I forgot. I did remember my wife this time. How did I forget founder Chris Miller, who is here with his wife Katie, who's put up with Chris getting involved. Chris found the money that first paid my salary, so I shouldn't forget Chris. He heads the Piedmont Environmental Council and has headed it for a couple of years longer than he found me for this. And they remain our parent organization. And nowhere else in the country does a rural conservation group that also works on land use and every other possible issue you can imagine tie in, though, with the urban community and the inner suburban community and make it a mega regional vision and effort. And they have an influence across the state of Virginia and probably nationally, so let's hear it for Chris and the Piedmont. Can't believe it. All right, back to Lee.
I'm glad that Stuart came to lower this for me. Also, I don't know how I'm going to follow Dan. I have some written remarks that I like. Okay, we all, right, for the past 2 years have been doing everything on Zoom and have had our talking points right in front of our faces. Right? So I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but I also actually, the personal story part I think is interesting. I moved to the DC region in 2004. I'd been in graduate school in Philadelphia in planning, and I was really attracted to DC because of the dynamism and all of the really interesting projects that were going on. My passion, I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Lee Farmer, I'm a transportation planner with PhD, but my passion has always been about that kind of connection between land use and transportation. And so the work that CSG does, right, is all about that. And the DC region, even in 2004, my view from Philadelphia, I was like, I think they're really getting this right. So I came to DC. I've gotten to work. I'm very exciting. I mean, for me, I used to work for the city of Alexandria, where I oversaw the implementation of the Metroway BRT, and I also helped complete the EIS for the Potomac Yard Metro Rail Station. I think one of the points I would make, though, because Susan Gigi is also here, who was in that position in Alexandria right before I was, and so basically was why I was able to do the things I was able to do. And I think the story of what CSG has done in terms of their advocacy for land use and transportation is also a big reason that I've been able to do the things I've been able to do in my career. I think it's kind of amazing to be at this point in my career and to actually be seeing things built or getting built. Planners don't see that all the time. Right? So briefly now, the actual points I was supposed to make. So I think, just as we know, though, CSG really has been at the center of these regional campaigns for better transit. As Stuart mentioned, this includes co-founding the Metro Now Coalition with our business partners. It includes being at the center of getting dedicated funding for WMATA in 2018 for the first time in WMATA's history. Big line, right, that has been really the reason that Metro's been able to kind of do all the capital projects they've been doing. During the pandemic, CSG was also instrumental in securing or in advocating for the transit funding, the emergency transit funding, 3 rounds of it, that have really kept our transit systems moving throughout the pandemic, absolutely essential. Some of the other wins that have been mentioned previously over the years, there's the 81-mile BRT network in Montgomery County, the Purple Line, the Silver Line, the 16th Street bus lanes. That's another one that I remember years ago, right, doing studies on. There's DC's bus priority network. What else have we got? Long Bridge, transforming rail in Virginia, right? And the Union Station Transformation Project. CSG has been instrumental in pushing all of those things forward. Going forward, kind of what's on the plate next, there's really kind of looking at bus priority lanes, the bus network redesign for WMATA and for our regional partners, and basically implementing a lot of these things that Stuart had really talked about. In addition, on the transportation side, CSG has continued to be a real advocate for safer streets, particularly on some of our suburban arterials. And they've also continued to support transportation planning firms like mine, right? I like to think we do some innovative work around better transit and better streets. And so basically just wrapping up all of that, thank you to Stuart and to CSG for all of the work they've done.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. On behalf of Jess and I, thank you for this engagement party. We appreciate it. But on a more serious note, now I'm Rodney Herrell. I'm the Vice President of Family, Home, and Community at AARP. I was born here in Washington, D.C. I grew up in Prince George's County under a great governor at the time, in the 80s.
At that time.
And 20 years later, I was really interested in the ideas of smart growth. And part of that for me came from the fact that growing up in our Beltway, Prince George's County, we saw that many things weren't happening there that were happening other places in the region. That there wasn't the access, at that time we didn't have Metro. We didn't have access to Metro at all. We had crime issues, we had housing challenges. Some of these things are still there today.
And what really stuck with me was the idea of equity across a region. How can the DC region have so much wealth, have so much ability to make change in parts of the community, but not others? So that really inspired me to look at urban planning, to get a PhD, and to do work for ARP, which I do now. So ARP has a mission, a local communities mission, around bringing options to different communities. The idea is our local communities work is supposed to make things better for people regardless of your age, or your income, or your physical ability, or your race, or where you live. You need to have options. You need to have housing options. You need to have transportation options. You need to have the community features that you need. And the idea is that that shouldn't just be for people of any age. It should be for people across a community and where you are. So one thing that excited me years later was Cheryl recruited me. So thank you, Cheryl, to be more involved in the organization. We had written about transit-oriented development, and then the idea that, well, how can we bring this back to the community? How can we bring these things to the communities that need them in the DC region was very important to me. And so Cheryl and her friends have started this group called Rise Prince George's. We're a community-led group where we've been educating public officials, teaching them about smart growth, so now the new candidates for office will know some of the things that we want to talk about and do and create in our community. It's been citizen-led. It's been great to be on these calls and frankly, knowing that we're teaching some of these candidates things that they should know, but frankly don't. And we're able to impact change and really create change. And that's the kind of change that CSG has been doing over these 25 years. You've been hearing a lot of different projects. One thing I want to talk about though is the vision. The idea that we're a society that's shaped by lots of events. Stuart talked about many of these things. Now, you can either be shaped by these events or you can help to shape events. And one reason why I'm on the Champions Council for CSG is the idea that we can shape some of these events moving forward. That with the vision that this organization and this leadership have, with the great team, and really with the collaboration that happens all around, this kind of organization is crucial to making the kind of change that we need in Prince George's County, but really across the region as a whole. So if you'll join me and raise a glass. I'd like to make a toast to 25 more great years of CSG and changing our community. Cheers. Over to Stuart, I will let you all go back to networking and enjoying the fellowship, and let's make some more change. Thank you, everybody.